are said to have started the Civil War. John Brown was an abolitionist who fought to end slavery and inspired many people to also abolish slavery. After visiting Harper's Ferry, I became interested in the history of the town, John Brown, and their importance to the Civil War. Today I'll be discussing the roots of John Brown's hatred for slavery, his raid on Harper's Ferry, and the effect it had on the Civil War. John Brown's hatred for slavery. He was born May 9, 1800 in Torrington, Connecticut. It was reported that when he was a young boy, his father sent him out to collect cattle, and he befriended a young boy. This boy was a slave. John witnessed this boy being beaten and mistreated. He saw the boy had nothing to look forward to in life, no hope, no future. This is said to have started his hatred for slavery. By the 1850s, John and 5 of his sons moved to Kansas to support anti-slavery settlers. Kansas was being fought over by anti-slavery and pro-slavery Union Free State. Violent encounters between the two sides rocked Kansas. John believed if he could start an uprising among slaves by providing weapons and a strategy that the revolt would spread across the South. His raid on Harper's Ferry. In July of 1859, he arrived in Harper's Ferry. In October, he led 18 men on an attack of the armory, and his plan was to get the guns and rifles out of the armory and to arm the slaves and other followers that joined him to the South. His strategy was essentially to deplete Virginia of the slaves before it had the highest concentration of slaves. He believed that this would cause a collapse in the movement, and the movement would wreak havoc on the economic viability of other pro-slave states. Brown vowed to only fight in self-defense, but knew violence may be necessary in the advancement of the movement. The raid on the armory was successful. Messengers spread the word to local slaves that their freedom was at hand. But the revolt in support of local slaves John had expected did not come. A train soon entered the town after the raid, and Brown ordered the train to stop. When failing to do so, him and his men opened fire on the train. The baggage master, Hayward Shepherd, was aboard the train and was shot by Brown and his men. He was a free black man and was known as the first casualty of John Brown's war against slavery. But despite Hayward's death, John allowed the train to continue. The train conductor sent out a telegram stating what had happened and what was going on. News of the raid reached Baltimore by early morning of October 17th and then Washington later that day. Local pro-slavery activists seized the only escape route out of Harper's Ferry. Brown and his men seeked refuge in Harper's Ferry's engine house. He had the windows and doors barred. He had his windows and doors barred, but fire between the two sides soon followed. Brown did send out his son Watson, another follower, out under a white flag. But the angry locals did not care and shot and killed his son. Shooting from both sides broke out again, and another one of John's sons was fatally wounded. By the early morning of October 18th, the engine house was surrounded by U.S. Marines, led by Colonel Robert E. Lee. An Army lieutenant under a white flag approached the engine house. He told Brown that if he surrendered, him and his men would be spared. Brown refused and told the lieutenant, "I would rather die here." Marines used sledgehammers to break down the doors to the engine house, and a lieutenant cornered Brown and struck him in the head. Brown's men did kill 4 Marines, but 10 of Brown's men, including his sons Watson and Oliver, had been killed. His other son Owen did escape, but Brown and 6 of his men were captured and arrested. His trial began October 27th, and his charges were for the murder of 4 whites and a black, conspiring with slaves to rebel, and treason against the state of Virginia. After a week-long trial, John was found guilty, and on December 2nd, 1859, he was hung in public. The news of John Brown's death surprised both anti-slavery and pro-slavery citizens alike. John Brown's actions and fate reinforced the tensions that pushed the United States into the Civil War. John became known as a martyr who was sacrificed for the sins of his land. Blacks, free and enslaved, and anti-slavery citizens were inspired by John's actions and rose against the South to end slavery and have equal rights for all. The Civil War officially started 16 months after he was hung. The raid on Harper's Ferry is thought to have done much to set the nation on the course towards a civil war. I think John Brown's fight to end slavery is best summed up by a black leader, Frederick Douglass, who wrote, "His zeal in the cause of my race was far greater than mine. It was a burning sun to my taper light. Mine was bound up by time, and his stretched across the boundless shores of eternity. I could live for the slave, but he died for them."